Here he is, the man we've been waiting for, Mr. Ghosal. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Richard?
I am good. We've got quite a few folks on. Thank you.
Right.
Firstly, thanks so much for doing this. I really
No,
appreciate it.
it's my pleasure.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the first question and then I'm going to unleash you on all our members because I'm sure they've got tons of questions. Firstly, how are you doing? How are you surviving lockdown?
So the lockdown in India is pretty strict. Like we've been in lockdown since the 25th of March.
Oh, after us, right?
Yeah, and but I came back from England on the 13th of March after playing Canary Wharf.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and so I was kind of like not like officially, but like implicitly told to stay at home from about the 15th. So I've been at home since then. So we can't really go out. Like
You
now,
can't even leave the house?
Right now, you can leave the house. They kind of relaxed it a little bit last week, but before that, you couldn't like the only reason you could go to was to get groceries or to like a hospital or a pharmaceutical shop. Nothing else was open.
You couldn't even leave the house to exercise?
No, it's not allowed.
Oh, it's even stricter than here. Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot stricter than what it is anywhere else. Like you couldn't even like take your car out just to drive or go to your friend's house or anything. Nothing. And
is that specifically? You're in Calcutta, right? Where
yeah,
are you?
but it's all over India. No, it's all India.
Everywhere. Everywhere's the same. Okay.
Yeah, because it's India has 1.3 billion people, so they're scared that if it catches on like it has in America, we're gonna be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So
Let's
obviously we don't have,
crossed.
and we don't have the the medical infrastructure that some of the other countries in Europe or even America has to kind of withstand such a big wave. So they're doing their best to contain it as much as they can. The saving grace is that, I mean, in some ways, is that it's been kind of limited to the major cities and it's gone into the rural areas, which is a big solo all day long. That's what it's gonna be.
I just had a feeling that's
still connect.
Yeah. And how far is the club that you work at? Do you live close proximity to the club?
Yeah, so we train in two clubs. There's one club which is like literally like 5 minutes away, and there's another one which is about 20 minutes away. So yeah, but I mean, I think clubs are going to open together at the same time whenever they do. Like it's not looking anytime now.
Right.
I think if we have it open, like we're thinking realistically, probably like the first week of July.
Wow.
Yeah, but the Prime Minister gave an address yesterday, and they're going to like relax a few things from this coming Monday. So we're going to know more details like over the next couple of days. So I think that'll give us an indication. But I mean, clubs are definitely not opening in the next month. It's looking very, very unlikely.
This question is from Rena. Rena said, how are you staying fit during lockdown?
So I have a big lawn downstairs in the apartment building that I live in, and so I'm doing one like physical session a day, generally between like 11:30 to like 1:15.
Wow, 2 hours. Wow.
I mean, like with the stretching and like doing some core work after, it kind of takes about a couple of hours. And yeah, I mean, my trainer's kind of being creative because obviously I don't have access to equipment, so there's no like stationary bike or weights to kind of do the strength work. So we're getting creative, trying to like put together different sessions to keep it fresh as well, because you don't even know when we're going to play next, so it's difficult to almost plan the training in terms of what we do now and when we play again. So but it's all right. It's been okay. I've managed all right over the last whatever 8-9 weeks, and we're chugging along. Look, these are decisions that the PSA has to take, but I know that these options are on the table. I think the first issue with squash, and maybe it's the same with like tennis as well, is that we are a very global sport and we travel a lot. So international travel is a big issue. And getting international travel working from most of the countries, at least, that play the tournaments or play our sport is probably the first hurdle before even we can start thinking about playing with or without an audience, and things like that. And obviously disinfecting and sanitizing the places where we play at, and having protocols in place to keep it as safe as possible for players, because whatever you do, the players are going to be at some sort of risk, because we play in such confined spaces, and you never know. So I think that's an option on the table, but I think international travel is almost like the first red light that we need to get to green before we can look at doing those things.
I think it depends on which part of the season I'm in. So the off season, I think you're focusing a little bit more on the off court stuff, because that's where you kind of build up your bank of physicality. Because during the season, you can't really kill your body as much because it needs to be fresh, and you're just maintaining the physicality. So I think during the off season, you're looking more at about maybe 50-50, because you're still working on some things to do with the squash, because you need to continuously evolve and add like subtle variations and stuff, to stay with the pack and get better. So I think it'd probably be 50-50. During the season, I think it's more 70-30 towards the squash side of things, because you don't want to like push your body to the absolute limits in training, to kind of maintain the physicality, and to stay sharp and fresh, because that's almost more important, because in the times that you have between tournaments, they're probably too short for you to make significant gains physically. So it's about getting your shot making sharp, understanding tactically what you want to do against different players, and trying to see how you can execute those things through routines and practice. I think solo as well, I think it depends on what you've done at the previous event. I think that kind of directs a little bit, as well as what you want to do in the next event in terms of what you focus on in solo work. But I think at the end of the day, it's about having a feel personally as to what you really kind of want to do. Like there have been times when I've come back from an event and I've not really done that well, and I probably had maybe like 2.5-3 weeks, and for 1 week I've absolutely beasted it, because I've just been like, man, this is just useless. So and that kind of but when we made sure that we don't go overboard, but it also gives you like a mental kind of edge, saying that okay, you've worked hard, kind of thing. So I think it's you have to be smart not to overtrain, but also be able to understand how your body reacts to certain things, and you'll never know that until you keep doing things, and it's a trial and error thing for most things. So yeah, I think you need to understand that for yourself. But for myself, like I said, it's probably 50-50 in the off season and 70-30 in the season.
You've been professional for a long time now, and that's that understanding of your body is always evolving, and you're learning more. Obviously for juniors like Paul, that's a much tougher to get that balance right, because it's a bit more trial and error. As you get older, you figure out what your body can withstand and what it can't, and what areas. I think it's tough. I think that's why he asked it, because it's something probably he's working on, trying to get that balance right.
Yeah, look, I mean, there are things where I sit now and I say that, why did I do these things when I was 23, and, but I mean, that's life, in retrospect, you always have a better understanding of what you could or could not do. So I think you need to have a mind which is open enough to make mistakes and accept that you will make mistakes, but to be able to learn from those mistakes, and have the cognizance, the awareness of what you're doing, and understanding why you're doing something. So even if you're like, let's say, doing an interval bike session, which is not exactly a squash session, you have an intent in place that, like I'm like, there's no point, like doing a bike session for like 35 minutes and going at the same pace if you're training for squash, because you don't do that in a squash match. You're literally playing rallies, even at the top level, mostly on average, like 45 seconds to a minute. And then you have like 10-15 seconds between points, and then you're going again, and these are the longer rallies. I mean, sometimes they're even shorter rallies. So it's probably better to do like interval stuff. And then in the interval stuff, like when you're on the rest periods, like there's no point trying to like say, okay, I'm just going to go really fast in the rest periods as well. so that, I think that, oh, I'm really fit. That's not the point. The point is that when you're on the on-site part of the intervals, you absolutely like destroy it, right? That's the whole concept of getting the best out of that session. Is the same. I think James has spoken about it before. James Willstrop about, like doing ghosting. Like there's no point doing like 2 hours of ghosting if you're just like, just going to the corners and like hitting the ball. Whilst you're ghosting, you kind of need to think and visualize in your head, like, what you would be doing with a particular player, like which shot you're going to hit, getting into position accordingly, going into different positions on the court, not just the same positions in the same corners, because in a squash match, you're not doing that. And basically, it's a question of trying to replicate what you do in a squash match as much as you possibly can to make the session as effective as possible. And again, it's not a perfect science. Even today, like I'm supposed to do like a movement session today in my garden, and I'm going to try something new in terms of what I'm going to do. So, so there's always things that you learn, and as you keep doing things, you'll realize that, there are certain things which help you, and there are certain things which don't help you. And that doesn't apply generically to everyone. Like, everyone is different and everyone reacts differently. Everyone has different strengths, different weaknesses. So I think you need to be able to have the awareness of yourself and of your game, as well as to the way you play, to understand what works best for you. And that will take time, and be patient with it.
Annika wants to know, has your diet changed from before you were in lockdown, and are you a vegetarian?
I'm not a vegetarian. So that hasn't changed much. But in terms of diet changing, I think the biggest change has been that obviously when we travel so much, we eat a lot from outside, from restaurants and things like that. Whereas pretty much since the 13th of March that I came back to India, I've not had a single meal from outside. Everything has been home cooked. And there are obviously, there are things that I don't have access to, which I would like to have access to in terms of food. But I think having stuff made at home where you know exactly what's going in and the ingredients that are going in makes a big difference in the quality of food that you're eating. So I think that helps.
Evan has a question, I think. Hang on, Eli, you go first. Eli's question is, do you set your goals more on a match by match basis or for the entire season?
Look, I think goals are set for like the season. I think each match is kind of is more on like a tactical basis. Like you understand how you need to play certain players because at the very top, everyone can pretty much do the same things. It's about who can impose the way they play, and to do that, you need to tactically be very astute with what you do. And that's why you see someone like Mohammad El Shorbagi, for example, who's world number one. I think he's very good at doing that. He understands his strengths, he understands the opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and plays to maximize his strengths on the day. And I think that's the way I think most people go about it. But yeah, I think as if I was like a recreational player, I think you could still set goals on a match by match basis a little bit, because you can have quantum leaps in improving. Like the level that we are at right now, they are small incremental changes or progressions. But when you're doing it match by match basis as a recreational player, you can say that, okay, I'm going to focus and make sure that I move back to the tee, for example, every time, or hit my forehand in the correct way that that Richard has told me about, which probably isn't the right way anyways, but yeah.
What's funny is the thing you said about going back to the tee would be a great short-term goal for Eli.
Because obviously it takes a lot of effort to get back, but I think what you'll realize is that it closes the court down a lot, and you're in a much better position to deal with a lot of things that the opponent throws at you. It's not easy, man. Like even today, I'm still working at it to get better at it. So don't get down on yourself if you feel like you're not getting right up to the tee every single time. As long as you have the intent of doing it.
Ashna wants to know, how do you mentally prepare for a match against someone who is ranked higher as opposed to?
So, things have changed a little bit over the last couple of years. I think a couple of years back, I used to go into a match when I'm playing someone in the top 5 or top 8 and think that, okay, I have nothing to lose, and let me kind of go into this match and put my best foot forward. And, let's see if I can get one of the first 2 games and see where the match kind of takes me. I think since probably last January, probably, I think the mindset has shifted a little bit, where I believe that now I'm in a position where I can probably beat anyone. And the mindset has changed into figuring out, what I need to do to make that happen. So whether I win the first game or lose even the first 2 games, I think the mindset is still the same, that, I go in thinking that this is possible. I just need to be able to execute what I know I'm good at and what I know I need to do. Obviously, you're slightly nervous before every match. I think that slight nervousness is important, but at the same time, you need to find your own calm space a little bit, so that you can think clearly and have clarity in what you're doing at that high pace at a considerable for the considerable amount of time. I think the mind space that you put yourself in is a product of the preparation that you've done before the match. Things not just at the tournament or on the day, but in terms of like the training that you've done before the tournament. I think that's what gives you the confidence and the belief that, everything is going to be okay once it's showtime. So I think preparation is the key to get the perfect mindset in place on a more consistent basis.
Rena wants to know, how do you deal with the pressure of staying at the top?
Well, Rena, I'm not really exactly at the summit yet, so I'm trying to get there. But I think that is it's a cliche thing that you don't train and things like that, where you're goal oriented, instead you're process oriented. But I think it's true. I think you have to focus on the journey of getting there and staying there. Focus on the process of doing it. Enjoying that process. I think there are a lot of things which, like even today, after being on tour for so long, like I'm still learning. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm still on tour, because it still challenges me. It still excites me. There are new things coming up, all the time. So I think if you can focus on yourself, focus on how you can get better for yourself, how you can reach your potential, I think you start to worry less about, how am I going to, defend these points from, how am I going to win this match so that I stay in the top 10 or whatever. I think once those thoughts start coming into your head, you've already lost half the battle. I think people do it. I don't do it because I'm not that sort of a person.
Right.
I think, again, it depends on who you are as a person. But yeah, I mean, like, I think people, names that crop up in my head who did it or do it now, and I might not be right because, I don't know them on that level, but I think Nick Matthew probably would be one of those people who would do that. I think Mohammed, like I know Mohammed very well. Mohammed, I think, does not do it all the time, but I know for a fact that, like, let's say he's lost a match against someone, and it's been a bit controversial, or there've been a few kind of weird things going on in the match. Like, he's really, really, really up for it when he plays them the next time. So, so it's always like a big test. Like, once something has happened in a match, like what happens in the next match, like we know he's going to be a beast. So he does that. So, and like, I know, like, when I'm playing Mohammed, like, I shouldn't like rile him up, because that's not the best thing to do. Look, there's a small line, you still want to like stand up to him and, do it, but you shouldn't like, unnecessarily like stoke the fire, so to say, because you're just like calling for trouble. So, yes, I mean, I'm sure there are players. I mean, there must be others as well, I'm not going to go to every name, but, there are players for whom it feels like, it helps them to kind of really
go at the opponents and gets their adrenaline flowing and pushing themselves beyond the edge, so to say, and kind of focuses their mind, really razor sharp onto the things that they want to do. And as long as it works for you, and you're not kind of getting distracted by things around it, I think it's worth doing. At the end of the day, you're playing within the rules of the game, and you're producing a better performance. And if that helps, then yeah, go for it.
I have a question. This is mine, and then I have one from Adam too. Who do you find the most difficult to play, and why? Currently, it's on the tour now. Who do you not who's the best? Who do you least like to play, and why?
I mean, there's a difference between least like to play and who is the most difficult to play.
I don't want to know who's the best. I want to get down to who's the most difficult to play for you personally.
So I think I'll make a distinction. So in terms of difficult to play purely squash wise, I'd say it's probably Gawad. Because he's he's a bit like Shabana, where he has a lot of different options with the same swing, and he's not easy to read. And also with his body language, like for 5 minutes he's like totally like blowing everything out, and then for the next 5 minutes he's going to be chilled out a little bit. So so those ups and downs in the intensity is not easy to deal with. With Muhammad, for example, or Ali, for example, like the intensity is high like through the whole time. So man, like this is how it's going to be. But then like with Gawat, like he'll have like 5 minutes and he'll be like totally intense, and then next 5 minutes is going to be lower. And then to kind of deal with that and take advantage of that is not the easiest thing in the world. So I think he's the most difficult to play squash wise. I think probably the one that I maybe least like to play is probably like Faris Dasuki, I think, because I think he gets in the way a lot, and I don't like I don't like that. I mean, I don't know if he tries to do it on purpose or if it's just his movement, but yeah, I think a lot. Like you should ask Diego about him; he'll give you a full history lesson about Faris Dasuki.
Forward thinking, how will you deal with staying at the top in the near future? Anyway, that question is from Didier. I just read it. Which of the top players is your best friend, and do you enjoy the most? And who do you enjoy the most playing with? Who's your best friend on tour, and who do you most enjoy playing on tour? I guess who do you stack up well against? I guess is that right? I think
right. Yeah. So do I answer? So I'm going to answer the first question about how I plan to get there, get to the top. So. Look, I mean, I'm 13 in the world. I was 10 for most of last year. So, I mean, I was looking good at the beginning of this year, to kind of get back into that top 10. I think it's, it's a question of, I think I know sitting, with David Palmer, who I train with a lot, and my physical trainer, and I'm, adding a few other things to kind of see what I need to do to get better, to, really push for top 8, top 5, things like that. And it's about having, the belief and the perseverance to kind of work on those things consistently. Also the belief in matches to kind of produce those things once you've done it in practice. So, it's not a black and white situation. There are a lot of gray areas in there. But, I'm going to keep persevering and believing that it's possible and I can get to world number 1 one day. So hopefully at some point before I call it a day, I'll be at the top, and then I can answer one of those questions about how I can stay at the top. So that's that. In terms of who's my best friend on tour from the top guys, I think it has to be James Willstrop. We've spent a lot of time together. We've trained together a lot. We share hotel rooms, and we share a lot of things which are not directly related to the squash. I think a lot of our conversations are about random other things. And he, for all the people who don't know him, he's one of the nicest, forget squash, but the nicest human beings that I know. And he's a brilliant person. And I'm just very, very privileged to know someone like him and have the equation that I have with him. And it's brilliant. In terms of who I enjoy playing the most, that's a tough one. I think probably it's going to be Muhammad because he's world number 1, and I want to be world number one, and it's a good benchmark every time I play him to kind of understand how good I need to be or what I need to do to get there. And I kind of enjoy that, the intensity that he brings to the court, especially like I said, over the last year and a half, I'm enjoying that intensity a lot. And he walks the tightrope on the edge of the game most of the time. But I believe that he's very straight with what he does. Like he'll tell me, like before a match, he'll tell me like, man, I'm gonna block you. That's the way I'm gonna beat you. So at least he's not pretending. I mean, I don't condone it, but at least there's no pretense. And I mean, we're very good. We're very good friends off court as well. We've trained together as well, and I think he's of course he's very driven, and he's very, I mean, maybe that's not right, but he is selfish about his squash, and I think he'll tell you that. But I think overall he's a good person, and he's there to win. But I think he's there to win without kind of being hypocritical about what the things he does. And what you're going to get, even it might be good, it might be bad, but you know what you're going to get. And I enjoy the matches that I have with him, and the last two matches have been pretty good. The only thing I didn't enjoy was losing on tie breaks in both the matches, but hopefully that will change soon. So yeah, I do have I'm obsessive about a few things, and I've been like that since I was a kid. And doing that drop shot routine kind of thing was one of them. And over the years, I've kind of felt that the more I take away and wean away some of the obsessive things that I do, it kind of alleviates the pressure in my head a little bit, and hence that's why I've kind of stopped doing that. And again, I used to do that in practice as well before. Every time I should get off court, even after a routine. And I started obviously with stopping to do that in practice, and then obviously transfer that into a match. It's I think it's just a thing, where you need to kind of, sometimes you get too reliant on habits. And if those habits, on a certain day doesn't work out properly, then it plays things with your mind. And, as the more you can kind of keep your mind independent of a lot of things, I think that helps. I don't think I'm nowhere near down the road of complete, weaning away everything. I think I might be halfway there. But I'm trying to, get there totally. And I think it's helped me over the years to be a better player, and to be able to focus more on the things that I really need to do, rather than hit a really good drop in between games.
Look, absolutely last one. This is the last question. So this is from Annika. Annika says, are you watching a lot of squash now? Your old matches or other matches? What is your all-time favorite match? So it's in 3 parts. So are you watching a lot of squash now? And are you watching your own matches or not really?
Yes, I am watching a lot of squash right now, just to kind of stay involved in the game as much as possible. I've watched all the matches that I've played over the last year. So that's done and dusted for now. I think I might just do it again at another time. I'm watching the other guys now. There's so much to learn from all the top guys. They all have their strengths. They all have, different ways in which they play, and that's why they're where they're at. So, watching them. My all-time favorite match is Rami Ashur versus Mohammad El Shorbagi at El Guna. I think it is 2015, the final. It's 15 or 14, but it's the mammoth 5-setter in which Mohammad saves match balls in the 4th after coming back from 2-love down, and then Rami saves match balls in the 5th at 10-8 with 2 ridiculous winners, and then wins. I think one of the reasons why it's one of the best, in my opinion, is, I remember at the time, the intensity and the pace that they played at was definitely a level or two above what the normal, intensity and pace of the top level matches were. I think the pace has gone up considerably since then, and now I think a lot of the matches are at that pace. But to kind of push the envelope and push the barrier to that extent in one go, in one match, was wow for me. And even today, I mean, the quality of squash that they're producing in that match, stuff to the back,
the incessant hitting to the back, the attacks to the front, the consistency of those attacks, and obviously, some of the stuff that they're getting back. I remember like Muhammad telling me like after that match, he was like, "Man, I don't understand. Like, these rallies are bloody tough. I'm going like at like 200 miles an hour. After every rally, I'm like bending over, like thinking like, man, I'm gonna die anytime now." And then I look up and I see Rami and he's like bouncing around. I'm like, dude, what is going on here, man? So, but it says a lot about Muhammad as well. The mental strength that he has to keep pushing when he sees that and still have, stuff in his tank, in his mind to say that, okay, I'm still going to keep going, even though this looks like a hopeless situation. So, but it is, I think if you've not watched that match, I think it's very good to watch it. There's a lot to learn. I mean, I watched that match like a few times, and every time I see it, I see new things. And, like it's sad that Rami is not playing yet. I've practiced with him a lot as well. And believe it or not, the world hasn't seen Rami at his best if they've not seen him in practice, because what he does in practice is when he's on is silly. It's like absolutely silly. Like the pace at which he plays at. Like I remember I trained with him in the summer of like 2015, and we trained pretty much for like a month. And I remember like, the days when he was on, I was like, man, like Muhammad used to play at the highest pace on tour at that time. And I was thinking like, man, when he plays Muhammad, it must feel like slow motion, because this is just a joke. He's like literally like half walling 2-wall boasts. And it's not like terrible boasts. Like literally we're hitting like boasts like 2 inches above the tin, and he's half walling the boasts. And we're just going like, man, this is ridiculous.
Well, Saurav, thank you so much. I really appreciate it for taking the time out. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, best of luck when the tour does get going again, and